Hi, technology lovers. Welcome to the first episode of Technologically Viral.
Today, we open the discussion with a big question. What is currently happening in the field of technology? As you all know, this year we reached the second year of the COVID 19 pandemic, and this has occasioned different changes in every area of our lives. But this time, we will focus on the technology area. It's for this reason that my colleague Gustavo and I, Juan Diego, engineers in training, get you in an interesting discussion.
One of the sectors affected by the pandemic was the economic, bringing with the worldwide repercussions, causing one of the most important economic recessions of the recent times. And unfortunately, negative consequences appeared in the technology sector. I'm thinking about this. Several issues come to my mind, but I don't know which one to start with.
I do. At this time, one of these comes to mind, and it's the semiconductors crisis that has seriously affected the microchips market in the world since the pandemic began.
Well, here's your file, so I don't know about this. Tell us how semiconductors are related with the microchips.
So, as you know, each product that you or I consume or use is made of many parts or supplies that make it up, and the union of each one of them constitute the final product. Now, the semiconductors are the materials that microchips are made. They are the brains of each advanced technological product we use in daily life, such as computers, smartphones, vehicle computers, tablets, domestic internet equipment, home appliances, video games, medical equipment, satellites, and space telescope like the recent James Webb invention of it. And all of them require microchips and therefore semiconductors.
Oh, I see. I have no idea that technically most things we use are composed of those materials. However, what does that have to do with that you mentioned before about the crisis and the pandemic?
Okay, the scarcity of chips was not only due to the pandemic, but this one was which accelerated this process, and therefore originated the incapacity of supply the market demand as it was done before. As I just told you, it isn't the only factor present in this global problem, because our society has become more technological, more and more products make use of chips. Also, climate change has had something to do with this because natural disasters have interrupted the fabrication process of some factories. Nevertheless, the political tension between the United States and China have had something to do too. Finally, focusing on the pandemic, as I said before, accelerated this demand and then aggravated the crisis of chips because the people started to work and started remote, and they require electronic devices that use chips. In the domestic network, internet infrastructure several times had to be upgraded. Also, when the people were confined in their homes, some of them did remodeling and changed some home appliances. These ones are smarter due to the technological advances, and they require these chips.
I understand the point of the problem, but this would be solved if there were more factories of companies dedicated to the manufacture of these chips.
That is a good question, my friend. Nowadays, you could say there is a kind of monopoly regarding the manufacturing of chips, since Taiwan and South Korea are the countries that control this manufacturing because they represent around 83% of the world production of processor chips and 70% of memory chips. However, why don't more factories be created to supply the world's demand? Well, it isn't as easy as it seems. This process is too long. The creation of a chips factory can take between 2 or 3 years. Even so, The manufacturing of each chip takes between 2 or 3 months to materialize.
Okay, but the big questions that arises to me now is, will we have to habituate to the life among these prices of chips, or is something that depends only of the time that takes the pandemic to finish?
Hopefully not. As these 2 years have passed of the pandemic, the economy has returned to normal and gaining strength again. And many subject matter experts agree, and they have a projection that in 2023 or 2024, this scarcity problem of chips comes to an end, giving it in this way a relief regarding the next technological advances. And why not? The continuation of the manufacture of already designed products that demand microchips in the market of supply and demand. However, everything depends on how this year develops economically. Cross our fingers.
But it wasn't all bad. Not only did the pandemic cause negative consequences, but it also helped the development of various research files, mainly in the field of health, as most of their intentions were in the research of the cure, in the diagnosing as soon as possible, and in how to save as many people as possible.
Ah, yes, you're right. I remember reading a paper, I don't know where, something that said that artificial intelligence, which is strongly related to the medical field, was making significant advances in the diagnosis of diseases. I imagine that this has been used in COVID-19, right?
Exactly. Thanks to artificial intelligence, doctors have a great help in the diagnosis of disease. It just helped in the detection of conditions after being ill with COVID-19, such as altered taste or smell, neurological disease, respiratory, even multisystemic inflammatory syndrome.
Wait. What does artificial intelligence have to do with it? I mean, is there a Jarvis that tells the specialist what disease the patient might have?
Artificial intelligence is not as many believe it to be. There is not a service that tells health specialists what issues there is. Science, artificial intelligence refers to systems or machines that mimic human intelligence to perform tasks and can be improved iteratively from the information they collect. So, the use of algorithms can be performed image analysis precisely to be able to diagnose all these types of disease and symptoms. You have to perform imaging tests, such as X-rays. X-rays, among of the other tests, that is where artificial comes in, and it is precisely to diagnose all these types of disease and syndromes that the diagnosis imaging tests, such as the X-rays, among another tests, have to be performed. And that is where artificial intelligence coming science computer can examine thousands of medical images to identify disease patterns the patients. This offers enormous potential to improve the accuracy and the speed of diagnosis.
Oh, I see. But then you only work with SQLA, or are there also implementation to detect COVID-19?
Yes, look, there is not only the PCR test to detect the virus. At the beginning of the pandemic, test X-rays was one of primary methods recommended for COVID-19 suspicions. And as I said before, artificial intelligence can be helped with the imaging test. And in Argentina, that is here in the upper corner of the world, detection algorithms were created whose functions is to analyze the chest X-ray and helped differentiate patients with coronavirus infection from those with another case of pneumonia or who don't have compatibility findings.
I understand why the analysis of the symptoms and sequelae of the virus was established so quickly. With the help of artificial intelligence in hospitals, these diseases should have been diagnosed quickly.
It is not so, as there are two major drawbacks to the use of the artificial intelligence. One of the which is the quality of the diagnosis, as several experts point out that only a few studies are of sufficient quality to be included in the hospitals, in addition to giving a warning that the true diagnosis power of the deep learning is uncertain. There is not for research to monitor every prediction, as there are not enough studies that directly compare the performance of doctors and machines. On another hand, as the previous sessions, there is the economic part. Since it involves a very large compute cost, expensive servers are needed to store, analyze, and use the data necessary to be able to use this technology.
I understand the drawbacks present in this field, but a big question arises. Are the limitations greater than what has been found so far?
Today, yes, but this won't continue to be the case because technology is advancing at a progressively rapid pace, and everyday artificial intelligence, together with the advance of big data, which will be discussed in another chapter of this topic, uh, will generate even greater precision. If today, in more than one study, the ability of accurately exclude patients who don't have issues, also for deep learning algorithms was 93% specific, compared to the 91% for health professionals. It should be therefore be noted that even with the existence of several limitations in the methodology, code, and reporting of diagnostic studies, these files will continue to explore and improve in the coming years.
In today's podcast, we discussed two interesting topics that took place thanks to the pandemic in the technology area. On one side, a negative aspect, which it was said that the crisis of chips worsened with the beginning of the pandemic, and on the other hand, a positive aspect related to the technological advance in medicine and the diagnosis of COVID-19.
Hope you have learned a bit with us today. Will we see you in the next chapter of Technology Bureau, Technology Lovers?